parents sold car they gave me for my birthday, to pay for my gold sister's wedding. I got angry and ruined her celebration, and now I'm laughing because her fiancé left. I'll never forget my 18th birthday. My parents handed me the keys to a bright red 2010 Mustang GT, and for a moment it felt like the universe had aligned perfectly. This car wasn't just a vehicle, it was freedom. It was late-night drives with my friends, the soundtrack of blasting music, and moments of quiet clarity when I was alone, just me and the open road. I washed it every weekend, waxed it until it shined, and even gave it a name, Scarlet. So you can imagine my shock when Scarlet was suddenly gone. At first I thought she had been stolen. I came home from work and the spot in the driveway where she usually sat was empty. I burst into the house in a panic and asked my parents what had happened. My dad casually mentioned, "Oh, we sold it. Needed the extra money for Olivia's wedding." Like he was talking about trading in an old couch. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents had sold the car they gave me without even telling me, just to throw my sister a dream wedding. And not just any wedding. Olivia wanted everything over the top, a designer dress, a venue that looked like a castle, an open bar, the works. Apparently, the 20 grand they had already set aside wasn't enough. Here's the kicker, the car wasn't even registered in my name. Technically, it was in my dad's name, so legally they could do whatever they wanted with it. But morally? It was a betrayal I couldn't overlook. They didn't even have the decency to ask me. I don't know if it was Olivia's constant whining about wanting a fairy tale wedding, or my parents' obsession with making sure their golden child was always happy, but they decided that my car was expendable. They didn't care what it meant to me or how it made me feel. That's when I realized something. They never cared about what I wanted. My whole life had been about Olivia. She got the best clothes, the most attention, the praise. I got whatever was left over. But this was too far. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at my father, feeling this mixture of anger and betrayal boiling under the surface. He gave me a half-hearted apology about how it was for the family, and Olivia deserved this special day. But it didn't feel like an apology. It felt like he was trying to shut me up before I could say anything. I went to my room, slammed the door, and sat there stewing. They thought they could just take something that was mine and get away with it. They thought they could treat me like I didn't matter? No. They were about to find out how wrong they were. I spent the next few days trying to act normal. It wasn't easy. Every time I saw Olivia running around the house, all dizzy and glowing, I wanted to scream. She had no idea what my parents had done, or maybe she did and just didn't care. Either way, the sight of her made my blood boil. Of course, my parents were too busy fussing over the details of the wedding to notice how angry I was. The catering menu, the flower arrangements, the rehearsal dinner, it was all anyone talked about. And every time they brought it up, all I could think about was Scarlett sitting in some stranger's driveway because they had sold her out from under me. I decided I wasn't going to let it go. Not this time. Not after years of being pushed aside so Olivia could have the spotlight. This wasn't just about the car. It was about everything. The years of being treated like I was less important, the constant favoritism, the way my parents had made it crystal clear that Olivia came first. But if they were going to have a perfect wedding for their perfect daughter, I was going to make sure they remembered it for another reason. The idea came to me when I overheard Olivia talking to her fiancé, Ryan, in the living room. I wasn't eavesdropping, not on purpose, anyway, but her voice carried. She was complaining about some small detail, something about the colors of the napkins not matching the table runners. Ryan didn't seem to care. He just sat there, nodding along, clearly used to tuning her out. That's when it hit me, Ryan. He was the weak link. He wasn't exactly the picture of a devoted fiancé. He seemed more like the kind of guy who went along with things because it was easier than arguing. I'd seen him checking his phone during their conversations, rolling his eyes when she wasn't looking, even complaining to my dad about how expensive everything was getting. If I could get to Ryan, if I could plant just the right seed of doubt, I could blow this whole thing wide open. Of course, it couldn't be anything obvious. If Olivia or my parents suspected I was involved, they'd never let me hear the end of it. I had to be subtle, careful. Something that couldn't be traced back to me. I spent the next few days gathering information. It wasn't difficult. Olivia loved to talk, especially about herself. She'd go on and on about her relationship, her plans, her vision for the future. And in all her ramblings, I began to notice cracks. Like how Ryan didn't want to move to the city she picked out. Or how he wasn't on board with her quitting her job to focus on being a wife. It was clear that Ryan was already on edge. He just needed a little push. And I was more than happy to give it to him. The opportunity presented itself sooner than I expected. Ryan stopped by one afternoon while Olivia was out with Mom, finishing up some wedding nonsense. I was in the garage, pretending to organize tools, when he wandered in looking for a beer. "The fridge is over there," I said, nodding toward the mini fridge in the corner. He grabbed one, popped the top, and leaned against the workbench. "Man, this wedding stuff is killing me," he said, half laughing, half serious. "I don't know how people do it. I didn't even have to push." He was already cracking up. "Yeah, it seems like a lot," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "But hey, Olivia has a way of getting what she wants, right?" He snorted. "You're telling me. It's her world and I'm just living in it." I could have stopped there, but I wasn't finished. "Must be tough," I said. "I mean, you're paying part of the bill, right?" He nodded and took a long sip of his beer. "Yeah, and her parents are chipping in too, but man, it's a lot. I told her we don't need all that, but she won't listen. Says it's her dream." I shrugged like I didn't care. "I guess it's worth it if you're sure she's the one." That hit harder than I expected. Ryan hesitated, staring into his beer as if it held all the answers. "Yeah, sure," he said, but it didn't sound convincing. Bingo. I decided to twist the knife a little more. "You know," I said casually, "Olivia's always been intense. My parents spoil her, so she's used to getting her way. But hey, if you're okay with it, more power to you." Ryan didn't say anything, but the look on his face said it all. I let the conversation die after that, not wanting to overplay my hand. But I knew I'd planted something. A little doubt, a little unease. And with Olivia's personality, it wouldn't be long before that seed grew into something bigger. Over the next few days, I kept my distance, watching from the sidelines as things began to change. Ryan seemed more distant, less enthusiastic. Olivia noticed, of course, and began to press him on it. They argued a few times, loud enough that I could hear parts of it through the walls. Perfect. I didn't feel guilty. Not one bit. They sold my car like it was nothing. They deserved it. And Olivia? She finally got a taste of what it felt like to lose something she thought was hers. I didn't have to wait long for things to explode. The engagement party was the perfect storm. Olivia had planned this extravagant event in a fancy hall, complete with a live band, a professional photographer, and enough food to feed a small army. My parents had helped pay for it, of course. I went, mostly because skipping it would have been too obvious. Also, I wanted to see how things went. Everything started out well. Olivia was beaming, basking in the attention as her friends and family flocked around her. Ryan played his part, smiling and shaking hands, but I could see the cracks. He wasn't as attentive, didn't hover around her like an adoring fiancé should. He spent more time at the bar than at her side, which I found hilarious. And then it happened. About halfway through the night, someone made a toast one of Olivia's friends, I think. She went on and on about how perfect Olivia and Ryan were for each other, how they were soulmates, and how lucky Ryan was to have found someone as amazing as Olivia. Ryan's smile faltered. Only for a second, but I caught it. And apparently so did Olivia. She cornered him after the toast and pulled him into a side room where they thought no one could hear. But they were loud. And angry. "What's wrong with you?" Olivia's voice carried through the thin walls. "You've been acting strange all night." "I don't know, Olivia," Ryan shot back. Maybe it's because I'm drowning in all this wedding crap. You don't listen to me, you don't care what I want, it's always about you. The room fell silent. I could imagine Olivia's expression, shocked, maybe even a little frightened. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. That's not fair, she said, her voice rising again. I'm trying to make this day special for both of us. If you can't see that, maybe you're the one with the problem. I wasn't sure how things escalated from there, but the next thing I knew, Ryan stormed out of the room, grabbed his coat, and walked out the front door. Everyone froze for a moment. Olivia ran after him, but he didn't stop. He got into his car and drove away without looking back. The whispers began immediately. Guests exchanged awkward glances, unsure whether to leave or stay. My parents looked embarrassed, trying to calm Olivia as she stood there sobbing. I stayed out of sight, a smirk tugging at the corners of my mouth. The golden child's perfect night was officially ruined. Later, I found out from one of Ryan's friends that he'd called off the wedding that very night. He said he couldn't deal with Olivia's selfishness and inflated expectations. It was over, and I couldn't have been happier. The aftermath was glorious in a twisted kind of way. Olivia was heartbroken. She spent the next few days alternating between sobbing in her room and ranting about how Ryan had humiliated her. My parents, predictably, rallied around her, blaming everyone but Olivia for what had happened. He's just a coward, my mother said. He couldn't handle someone as strong and ambitious as Olivia. Good riddance, my dad chimed in. She deserves better. I didn't say much. I just watched the whole golden child narrative crumble. The engagement was off. The dream wedding was off. And my parents were out thousands of dollars for an event that was never going to happen. But then came the inevitable confrontation. One night, after Olivia had cried herself to sleep, my parents cornered me in the kitchen. My mom started with the usual guilt trip routine. How can you stand by and watch your sister go through this? She's devastated. I shrugged. Not my problem. That set my dad off. You've been acting smug ever since this happened. Did you have something to do with it? I decided to be honest. Yes, I said. I talked to Ryan. I told him the truth about Olivia. I guess he didn't like what he heard. They stared at me stunned. My mom looked like she was going to cry. My dad, on the other hand, looked ready to explode. You ruined your sister's life for what? Some petty revenge? No, I said. I stood up for myself. You sold my car without asking me, just to pay for her wedding. You treated me like I didn't matter my whole life, and I'm done. You wanted to make Olivia's day perfect? Well, now you've got exactly what you deserve. That was the moment I knew there was no turning back. My dad pointed to the door and said, Get out. We don't want to see you anymore. I didn't argue. I packed my things that night and left. I used some of the money my parents reluctantly gave me after I sold the car to buy an older, used truck. It wasn't Scarlet, but it got the job done. It's been 3 months now. I moved a few hours away, got a decent job, and started over. I haven't spoken to my parents or Olivia since that night, and honestly, I don't miss them. They chose their favorite, and I chose to walk away. Do I feel bad about ruining Olivia's engagement? Not even a little. They crossed the line when they sold Scarlet, and they learned the hard way that I'm not someone they can just walk all over. Revenge may not fix everything, but damn, does it feel good. The truck I bought was nothing special, an old Tacoma with a few dents and scratches, but I came to like it. It wasn't Scarlet, but it was mine, and it got the job done. Every time I worked on it, tweaked the engine or fixed a squeak, it reminded me that I could rebuild, even if it wasn't perfect. Working at the shop kept me busy. The guys there were cool, the pay wasn't bad, and no one asked too many questions about why I was suddenly looking for a job. I told them enough to keep them satisfied. I had a falling out with the family, needed a fresh start. They didn't push for more. Despite the distance, small-town gossip has a way of finding you. Some mutual friends kept me in the loop about Olivia and my parents. Apparently, Olivia was still reeling. She hadn't recovered from Ryan dumping her in such a public and humiliating way. He'd moved to another state not long after and was already seeing someone else. My parents, on the other hand, were doing damage control. Hosting brunches, telling anyone who would listen that Olivia was taking time to focus on herself. And spinning the story to make it seem like Ryan was the problem. Typical. But the most unexpected twist came one night when I was at a bar near my apartment. I was sipping a beer and watching a game on the TV above the bar when someone slid onto the stool next to me. Small world. A familiar voice said. I turned around and there he was, Ryan. I just stared at him for a second, stunned. He looked different than I remembered, more relaxed, less tense. But it was definitely him. What are you doing here? I asked. Moved into town a few weeks ago, he said with a shrug. Needed a fresh start. Couldn't exactly stay in this city after, well, you know. Yeah, I know, I said, grinning. Man, your family, no offense, but they're crazy, he said, shaking his head. Olivia, your parents, they're on another level. The way they micromanaged everything, the expectations, it was like I signed up to marry all three of them. I laughed, because what else could I do? You're not wrong. They've been like that all my life. Olivia gets what she wants, and the rest of us just have to deal with it. Ryan sat back and took a long sip of his drink. You know, I didn't realize how bad it was until I got out. The wedding was just the tip of the iceberg. She wanted me to quit my job to move closer to your parents. Said it was important to stay in the family fold. Classic Olivia, I said. He shook his head and smiled faintly. I should thank you, really? If you hadn't said what you did, I might have gone through with it. You saved me a lifetime of headaches. I raised my glass. Here's to dodging bullets. We ended up talking for a couple of hours. Ryan didn't hold a grudge, which surprised me. If anything, he seemed relieved to have someone who understood how crazy the whole situation had been. Before he left, he said something that stayed with me. You did the right thing by standing up for yourself. They may hate you for it, but at least you're free. That's more than a lot of people can say. It was strange to hear him say that, but it felt good. For the first time, I didn't just feel vindicated, I felt validated. When Ryan left the bar, I sat there for a while, finishing my drink and thinking about everything he'd said. Maybe I'd lost my family in the process, but I'd gained something else, peace. And frankly, I wouldn't trade that for anything. A few weeks after I met Ryan, I heard that Olivia had a new boyfriend. His name was Brandon, some corporate type with a good salary and a fancy apartment in the city. My parents were thrilled, of course, already calling him a much better fit than Ryan. I didn't know the guy, but I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for him. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. By the sound of it, he was smitten. Olivia could be charming when she wanted to be, and I was sure she'd pulled out all the stops. Still, I couldn't see it lasting. Some people had to learn the hard way. Brandon would find out soon enough.